So we're going to call the meeting to order. We have quorum. And the first thing after I call the meeting to order is the acknowledgement of the traditional territory. And again, before we watch it, I'd like to just thank the earth for all it gives us. Because, oh my goodness, we see the beautiful flowers coming out and the leaves and all the life that there supports, and it's amazing. So, all right, we're going to acknowledge the traditional territory.
The land upon which we work, live, and sustain ourselves is the ancestral and treaty lands of the Michizagig Anishinaabe, also known today as the Mississaugas of the Credit, the rightful caretakers and title holders of this land. We also recognize the rich pre-contact history and relationships which include the Anishinaabe and the Ongwe-Hongwe.
Since European contact, this land continues to be home to Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. As responsible community members, we value the diversity, dignity, and worth of all people.
Colonialism displaced and dispossessed Indigenous peoples of their ancestral land
and continues to deny their basic human rights, dignities, and freedoms.
We are committed to learning true history to reconcile, make reparations, and fulfill our treaty obligations to the original peoples and our collective responsibilities to the lands, water, animals, and each other for future generations.
And what beautiful, rich cultures they have. Yeah. I'd like to give regrets from Mary and Kevin. They are unable to attend tonight. This is the last meeting before we take a break for the summer. So we're going to move on to number 3, which is the approval of the agenda. And whenever I see a slide one like this, sometimes I go, are we going to end up talking a lot? Yes, we are. Okay, so who would like to move for the approval of the agenda? Ray, and seconded. Thank you, Jennifer. All in favor? Wonderful, thank you. Oh, and I am going to try and pay attention to the trustees. Number 4 is the declaration of conflict of interest, and I'm going to go around the table and eyeball everybody. Anybody have a conflict of interest tonight? Nope. Okay. Number 5, the approval of the minutes of last month's Special Education Advisory Committee meeting. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns with regards to the minutes? Yes, Jennifer.
The motion that I made last month is missing a section. There were 3 recommendations and only 2 reported in the final report here. So
I just will share right from Jennifer. The board report had taken it from the
email that
superintendent.
Because so if you look, so in the first part of it, you have therefore be resolved number 1 and 2. And then there was a highlighted section, which was 3. We replaced the 2 with another 2 in the second section.
Okay, can we go back? Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Anything else? I think, yeah. So in the educational assistant staffing section, I just think that the minutes to reflect that the board, that a member was concerned that the board is not aware of the number of times students have been sent home from classes because it's not reported up to that level. To reflect there's concern that when students' rights are not being met, the board is not aware of it. And in the superintendent's report, there is a number of things missing that you talked about. For instance, The speech language report, and then the research study with the three ASD teachers and the SLP. So yeah, there's a bunch of things missing there from the actual report that you gave us, but check. I think that was it for me.
Thank you. The board reporter will check with the board reporter from last month.
Anybody else? Yes, Janice?
So just, I guess I'm going to order, if these minutes aren't accepted tonight, what does that mean with them going forward to the board at the meeting, next meeting?
Through the chair, the minutes will be amended, and the amended minutes will go forward to the board on July 2nd, along with the amended motion.
So with the amendments, then would you approve the minutes, Jennifer? Would you move for approval of the minutes, the amendments?
Sorry, I have my hand up. It's Jassy.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
That's okay. I also have
Jassy?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. I had also requested a copy of the ministry response for the vision scan that the board had done, and I hadn't received that either.
We have it copied and ready for you tonight.
Okay. All right. So Jennifer, would you like to move for approval with the amendments? And then Jasmine, would you like to second it?
I just struggle approving something I haven't seen.
Okay.
Works.
So I guess because we have so many amendments, can we just not approve them? I've never done that before. Okay.
Oh, but then will they go to the board? That's.
Yeah, it won't go to the board if it's not approved, approved with the amendments. The other piece is that the board reporter can do the amendments and provide it to superintendent, who can then share it and get your approval before it goes to the board, because it's required next week for the agenda collation.
Okay. Do we have enough time to have that? Is that okay
Send
with
it to
you?
me tomorrow.
Yeah.
So through you, Chair, it's sent to me tomorrow. My assistant can send it out to SEAC members, and then we would need a response back, and I'll include a board reporter on the email to approve it, I guess, virtually.
No.
That
You'd have to approve it now.
oh, you approve it now after we send it. Okay.
Do that.
So I don't quite understand what word she
She's
has.
going to make the amendments.
Okay.
Send them out. You approve.
And then we approve them.
Yes. and
No,
that's
you, you approve them now because you can only do that at the meeting, at a final
The
meeting.
idea is there's an amendment.
Yes.
So in that case, I will approve them with the amendments, and we'll see the amendments tomorrow. Okay.
Okay. And so then Jazzy, would you like to second that?
I asked you.
No, Jazzy.
Sorry.
Because she had her hand up and she had made a comment.
Yeah, after sorry, I'm just trying to follow along the line. After we receive it tomorrow, we'll then go through it and virtually accept it if we're all aligned. Is that what the ask is?
The ask is that we approve it tonight. We approve the approval tonight. We approve it tonight, but we will see the amendments tomorrow, and that will be we'll all get to reapprove them.
Okay.
I don't know. My brain's trying to make sense out of it. Okay, so you're okay to second it then? Or
Yep.
you guys confused as I? Okay, all confused, raise their hand.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so there we go. We've done that. Number 6 is a delegation, 6.1, which is the delegation is Archana Arun with regarding the lack of psychologists for gifted testing in the PDSB. And we have our Ellen? Oh, she's online. Okay, all right.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Archana. I'm a parent, and I'm here representing all parents who are concerned about the availability of psychologists for gifted testing within our education system. Recently, children who were identified as potentially gifted through the CCAT are not receiving the necessary psychological assessment in a timely manner. For instance, children who took CCAT in 2021, 2022 have yet to proceed to the psychoeducational assessment stage. And at our school, the parents in line for these assessment were informed by the review committee that there's an additional 1 to 2 years wait for this process. It's really disheartening to learn that the current wait time for the assessment has reached such a critical length, as it directly impacts the academic and personal development of students. These kids learn differently, and classes in the regular stream may not be the ideal place for them. Sometimes they are so noisy and chaotic that children who want to focus and study are often asked to go to the library for quiet space. Schools have failed to provide an enriching environment and are not able to reinforce discipline. And I hold the board responsible for not foreseeing this different level of kids and providing them with right atmosphere to learn. Additionally, teachers who are supporting the IEP, the ISELP students, are frequently reassigned to cover other classes because of shortage of teachers. I urge the board to prioritize this issue and take immediate action to address the shortage of psychologists and reduce the waiting period for the gifted assessment, because every day delay hinders the potential of gifted students and perpetuates an unjust system of deprivation to these children. I'm additionally troubled by the suggestion from the school committee that parents should seek private psychological assessment at their own expense. And these assessments cost anywhere between $2,000 to $3,000, which is a burden on families which they should not been told to bear. I foresee that families of students who can afford to get the private testing done will get an opportunity for the gifted stream, whereas those who cannot will be deprived of this opportunity, creating a further gap between have and have-nots. Furthermore, I seek clarification on whether can parents file for reimbursement cost related to private assessment. It is fundamentally unjust to place such financial responsibility on families for a service that should be provided by the education board. Therefore, I'm compelled to escalate this matter here and ensure that no student experiences similar delays and deprivation. And I urge your full cooperation and swift action to address this issue and prevent further delays. Thank you for your attention in this matter.
And thank you for that delegation. So okay, so I'm going to ask for receipt of the delegation, and I'm going to just remind all the people online, if you, especially if you're talking, that you turn your camera on so we can see you. And I'm just noticing that Topaz, you have two things open there. I see you twice.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just I'm here, but I had to move around a little bit, so I also have my phone on as well.
Okay. Oh, thanks. So we're gonna move for receipt. Would somebody like to move for receipt? Jeff? Thank you. Can I get a seconder to move for receipt? Topaz, would you like to second that?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So we've received your delegation, and there will be a response in September. It typically happens the next week, which would be September. All right. So thank you very much for your concern. And yeah, I'd just like to state that I have a concern about the availability of services for all kids. Yeah. And the fact that the funding doesn't allow us to provide in this timely manner for all the kids. It's important. Yeah. You raise an important issue. Thanks. All right. We are going to move on to reports from officials and staff, and we see Superintendent Scott going around handing out some papers. Because we asked for copy of the oral report. Thank you for this so much for this.
You're welcome.
It
Thank you
really
so much.
does help. And I know for some of us it helps as you're talking, it gives us a place to put our questions. And sometimes seeing it and hearing it helps the information to go in. And there is it going to be online for those that are joining?
No, I just did a printed report.
All right.
Good evening, members of the Special Education Advisory Committee. As we near the conclusion of another amazing year in the Special Education and Social Emotional Learning Department, I want to take my opportunity to express my heartfelt appreciation for your unwavering support and dedications to students and families. This year has been marked by significant milestones and achievements that underscore our commitment to serving students with disabilities. I am thrilled to share that we made substantial strides in expanding our service to better meet the diverse needs of students. Specifically, we have committed to opening 22 new congregated classes tailored to support specific student needs. We've also made deep commitments to improving programs, have an enhanced focus on literacy and numeracy, and have signed partnerships to expand pathway opportunities for students with disabilities. We have provided system-wide professional learning opportunities for administrators, teachers, and educational assistants, all designed to enhance the equity of access, experience, and outcomes for students with disability. Additionally, our focus on mental health initiatives has set the board apart provincially. The comprehensive programs and resources we have implemented for a mental health strategy have not only supported our students' emotional well-being, but have also positioned us as leaders in promoting mental health awareness and supports. Based on feedback from SEAC, we have looked critically and reviewed our programs to focus on academic achievement, social well-being, pathways, and inclusion. Furthermore, recognizing the critical role of educational assistants in supporting student success, with the support of the Director's Office and our trustees, this year we have added over 150 educational assistants to provide support for the personal care and safety needs of students in schools. The addition of these dedicated professionals has been instrumental in enhancing the overall experience for our students. I would like to share that in the past few weeks, there has been a change in the reporting structure in our department. The social, emotional, and mental health teams will be joining the Safe and Caring Schools team. This change is aimed to meet the needs of our most vulnerable students. Our teams will continue to work together in partnership and support of students. Associate Director Paul De Silva, who has served CECIL and SEAC with steadfast dedication and strong advocacy, will be moving on to supporting the system by supervising all 13 field superintendents. We are so thankful for his commitment and leadership, and I'd like to invite him if he would like to say a few words before I continue.
Through you, Chair. Since joining SEAC almost 4 years ago, I was, interestingly enough, full circle, moving out of the field into social emotional learning. I was the superintendent in September of 2020. I've seen quite a number of changes over the course of the last 4 years, a number of different directors and a number of different people coming and going. But I would like to thank all of you for the opportunity for growth for me as well. I came into the role with some hesitation and fear, understanding that I was following in the footsteps of some amazing superintendents who had this role and dedicated a lot of their life and a lot of passion to the role. And so I leave with some reservation for sure, but certainly know that some of the pieces that have been talked about here at SEAC, I will be able to actually operationalize as the sole AD responsible for the entire field superintendent. So, things that come to mind specifically are, Jennifer's concern about tracking of closed classrooms. I can certainly support the development of those pieces and have consistency across all three districts between Caledon, Brent, and Mississauga. It will be a difficult task for me, but I certainly look forward to engaging with that work. The other piece I would like to talk about is these folks behind me. I don't think I've worked with individuals who cared more about kids, and I am concerned for their own well-being. They are oftentimes criticized, not only from people here, but also in the field. But I can honestly say that they are here in their role, and I've known many of these folks for the majority of my 30 years in Peel. And I can honestly say that you're lucky to have them in these chairs, working so difficulty, so passionately to make sure that what they do each and every day is what's right for kids. Do they make tough decisions? 1,000%. We make tough decisions each and every day, but those decisions are not done lightly. And they get together and they make decisions what they feel is best for the system, for this committee, and for, most importantly, what's good for kids. So I leave with a part of my heart here, knowing that I will be definitely connected with Claudine as I move forward. I said she can't get rid of me that easily. We will be connecting because I do feel that it is in the best interest of the system for me to be connected, not only with this particular group, because I care deeply also about students with special needs, but I want to be in her corner, their corner, to support anything that any of those decisions that are made here. So I want to thank you again, and certainly want to highlight that the folks sitting here with me shoulder to shoulder are here late nights, early mornings, and take. I don't want to repeat myself, but they are fantastic human beings, and I wish them all the best because I know they're in it for the right reason. So I think I'll stop there before I get too emotional about these pieces. But I do think in my time here, and I will leave with this, that there has been an exceptional amount of work, detailed work done in the last 10 months. That's been very difficult. But in my time at SEAC and here with the board for 30 years, I don't think that I've seen the detail and the level of professionalism and passion that's gone into this. And I know it comes with some criticism because you can't move forward without that. But certainly their work ethic is second to none. So I leave that there. Okay, cool.
Thank you, Associate Director De Silva. I am pleased to share that Dr. Camille Logan will be joining us at SEAC and as the Associate Director with responsibilities for special education. As well, I'm very pleased to share that SEA responsibilities will be moving back to the Special Education Department. We are in the midst of creating a team that will be designed to support students in alignment with the new funding model expectations shared by the Ministry of Education. While celebrating these achievements, we also recognize the importance of continuous improvement. Moving forward, we are committed to strengthen communication and collaboration efforts to further enhance our support system for students and their families and our relationships with members of SEAC. As we look to the next year, I'm confident that together, with your continued guidance and partnership, we will build upon our successes and navigate challenges with resilience and innovation. Our collective efforts will ensure that our special education department remains a model of excellence for students with disabilities. Thank you for your ongoing dedication and collaboration. I'm truly grateful to work alongside such passionate individuals who are committed to making a difference in the lives of students. And I want to wish you at this time, even though it's not been a wonderful summer.
Thank you very much. And we wish you well all with your new role, and thank you for your dedication over the past 20 years. And does anybody have any questions? Oh, I echo it. Any questions at this point? Yes, Jennifer.
Sorry. Thank you. And I just want to say that never ever has it been about a lack of work or effort or care on the part of our people back there. Absolutely. It's been more this year about collaboration, communication, transparency, and everything. So I have nothing but respect for all you back there and what you do every day and you do for kids. So absolutely. Can you just help me understand these changes a little bit more clearly? So if I'm understanding correctly, so we used to be special education, social emotional learning, right? So now special education will be in one bucket.
Yes,
And social emotional learning and
safe and caring schools will be together.
works together. What does that mean from a, like, who's going where underneath those two umbrellas?
So that would mean that Janet Jakowski, who's the senior manager of mental health and social emotional learning, will be moving over to that department alongside of the intensive support team under the leadership of coordinating principal Judy Richards. Judy's back there, who helps to run the social emotional learning resource team, the intensive support team. Yes, and everybody under them. Behavior coordinator, and all of that department. PSSP staffs remain in special education, along with special programs and all special education.
So when I look at the list in here of all of the teachers and professionals and things like that, are they all special education still?
It depends on what role. So if you're looking at social emotional learning, then they would be moving over. CYCPs, intensive support level 4 EAs would all be moving over. But if you're thinking of occupational therapists or BCBAs or CERTs or SPURTs, they'd also be staying with us.
Okay. And so how does that work with the funding model? Is everything in spec ed still?
Everything in spec ed remains in spec ed.
Okay.
The funding specific for mental health, which is heavily funded a department through TPAs, would move with them. And we were trying to have an organizational chart for you, but because of the recent changes and business cases not, just kind of moving through final approval, which just happened recently, we weren't able to have one, but we do commit to having one ready for September.
And then with ATRTs, the CA responsibilities, does that mean we're getting our ATRTs back?
So there is a new role called the CA resource teacher. And we are also hiring a CA vice principal, as well as additional occupational therapists that would be responsible for high incidence for students who have both technology and equipment needs. So we've been successful, and the board has been extremely supportive in reestablishing a very strong CA portfolio.
The same number, 13 again.
So that's just what's being finalized right now.
Okay. Great.
Through you, Chair, just to add on to Jennifer's question, you mentioned a business case being recently approved. So
yeah,
I would think that there'd be an objective that are trying to be achieved through these changes. What are those objectives that the board is trying to achieve by making these changes? So the one that Jennifer mentioned in terms of the SCSL.
So the cell moving over to safe and caring.
What's the objective there?
So absolutely, objective is always, through you, Chair. Objective is always comprehensive student support. So our Safe and Caring Schools department has a really critical role in playing and developing safety in schools and practices that allow students to feel included. We all know that students who feel safe and included are ones that are achieving better academically and socially. So because of the partnership there and the expertise that it is on the mental health and social emotional learning team, that partnership is really a very logical one that would happen to make sure that, things like restorative practices, trauma-informed practices are really led by not only educators, but also clinicians that are on Janet and Judy's team. So it really is a more comprehensive look, but we still will be planning extensive collaboration together. We have many systems that function together. So when we have, a multidisciplinary team, for example, her team, Janet and Judy's team, will both still be attending those sessions in combination with Superintendent Stubbings, who runs that department. So it really was a student-centered, student-focused approach.
Okay. Just an add-on, if anything. So am I correct to understand is that this team, which was focused on this special education, will now merge with the wider social and emotional learning team, which will also include other students or students with other special education needs?
So the opposite. So they were all together this year under special education and social emotional learning. And now students being supported under the social emotional learning category will move over to safe and caring. And students with special education or exceptionalities will land in our department.
Anybody else? Ray, would you like to move for receipt of that? Yes. And could I have the seconder? Nicole, thank you. All right, and we're gonna move on to 7.2. The second plan 2024 for receipt.
Yes, I want to extend my gratitude to each of you for your feedback on our special education plan. The partnership we share in advocating for the best interests of students is truly commendable, and I'm deeply appreciative of the collaborative spirit that defines our work together. Your feedback has underscored areas where we can improve, particularly in communication and collaboration. We acknowledge that there is always room for growth, and we are committed to adjusting our practices to better reflect your input. Strengthening these aspects will undoubtedly enhance our ability to provide the highest level of support and care to our students. I also want to address that, unfortunately, I received comments that challenge the commitment and integrity of our department. I stand before you as a humble representative of a huge team of people who day in and day out dedicate themselves to this work and to students. It's important to emphasize that this team works tirelessly to support students with disability and are amongst the most dedicated professionals I've ever had the privilege to collaborate with throughout my career. Their unwavering advocacy and passion for ensuring every student receives the resources they need are exemplary. I can't tell you the number of times they knock on my door and we together problem solve and advocate to make sure student needs are being met. This dedication is shared by both our associate directors, our director's office, and trustees across the system. As shared by Associate Director DeSilva, we have had to make some hard decisions this year with the realities of the educational and the financial landscape. And we are lucky to work with a system full of educators and leaders who have looked at that and still been resolved to provide system support. Moving forward, I do strongly encourage our continued dialogue and collaboration. Your ongoing feedback is critical so we can create an inclusive learning environment where students can thrive. So as a team, we have compiled the feedback shared by SEAC and community members. The feedback was extensive and is over 50 pages in our responses. Please note that there were many similar questions asked to which we provided same responses to similar questions that were asked, but we wanted to honor everybody's voice and make sure that all questions made it to that. In order to honor the feedback given and what was shared to be the preferred process at the last meeting, we're going to be moving into small group and collaborative groups. We'll give you copies of the responses, allow you time to meet with coordinating principals to hear the responses that were provided, and we'll document them. And many of your responses have led to changes and updates in the special education plan, and that has been documented. Okay, so we had groups created, but some people aren't here in line, so we're just going to make a shift so that coordinating principal Jeff Bertrand and Judy Richards will meet with Anne, Barb, Nicole in one group. So in one small group, Erla Jacket and Jeff Hall and Andrea Dewar are going to meet with Shelley, Jennifer Knight, Ray, and Anshu. And then coordinating principal George Schultenitis and Janet Jakowski will try to engage with the online participants for this feedback. Okay. So if everybody wants to,
if we weren't included,
sorry. Yeah, you can join the second group with Erla. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I went from the agenda. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Yeah, I was the seconder on the motion from last.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Glad you're here. Okay, so if we're going to get the coordinating principals for the people in the room to grab the number of packages you need and the documentation of the packages, and we can either move into the foyer or the cafeteria where there's round tables that are easier for feedback. We're predicting about 45 minutes of time needed for this because we want to honor everybody's time. But we can, Associate Director DeSilva and I will be kind of going throughout the groups and making sure that all of you have enough time, and if extensions are needed, we'll do that. Okay? Thank you.
We're going to receive it now that we've had the chance to have a discussion. And would anybody like to move for receipt? Anne, thank you. And can I have the seconder? Andrew, thank you. And all in favor of receiving? Thanks. Wonderful. All right. We're going to move on to 8.1 our communications for action or receipt. And 8.1 is the mental health strategy. It's the PDS advocacy letters to the ministry. And would somebody like to speak to this?
Through you, Chair, we have been asked by our trustees and director's office to include the letter for receipt. We're happy to take any questions and are really just very grateful to our Director of Education and our trustees for their ongoing support of our department and students.
Does anybody have any questions or comments with regards to that particular letter? Did you have something to add? Association.
Just a comment, Chair, if I may. Again, this speaks to another opportunity for the department to really advocate on behalf of the students of Peel District School Board, and a lot of thought and time and effort went into gathering all of that information. I want to say thanks to those who were involved in putting that amount of detail together for the chair of the board, along with our director, Rashmi Swarov, who were very excited to push that forward on behalf of all of us here, but more specifically for our students to get their fair share.
And let me say that I'm kind of shocked that 5 to 7 schools each per social worker. That's an incredible caseload, considering what the district is going. 5 to 7 schools for each social worker. Yeah. That's an incredible caseload, considering what we know is happening in the district regards after. Yeah. I commend the staff. Who would like to move for receipt of this letter? Jeff, thank you. Can I have a seconder? Barb, thanks. All right. Now we're going to go on to 8.2, which is the Durham District School Board letter regarding transportation support for students with special education needs. This everybody
through you, Chair, just for the information of SEAC and for receipt.
Okay. I'm just wondering if we combine that with the Provincial Parent Association's, the PAC letter to SEAC on best practices for receipt. So we combine 8.2 and 8.3 for receipts, and they're both letters, and just receipt that. Would somebody like to move for receipt of both of them? Barb, and the seconder? Jeff, thank you. All right. So we will move on to 8.4, which is the response to delegations. A, B, and C.
Through you, Chair, we have provided verbal responses, and we want to start by thanking all members of our community that come to delegate the board and help to refine our practices and allow us to think critically and problem solve around concerns that are brought forward and refine our practices. We have provided responses to delegation for BOC 1 for update for receipt, to the elementary communication class for receipt, and to ADHD support and resources for receipt. We're happy to take any questions on any of those delegation responses.
So, yeah, Jennifer?
I start with the communication class, so, and maybe it is in this package here, I haven't seen it yet. But I'd like to understand one of the key things here is that there was a real rush to make this decision. I'd like to understand what the rush was and why it had to be done so quickly.
Through you, Chair, and thank you for the question, Jennifer. We do understand the feedback regarding insufficient consultations. When we were looking at enhancing programs and responding comprehensively to the right report, as well as the ministry director was on making sure that we were providing inclusive classrooms. We had discussions as a team on how we can refine our practices and make sure that students had continued access to Tier 3 reading intervention from a trained professional and access more supports through a communications resource teacher and other elements, and really consider the success of their pathways once they get the intensive support communication classes. And there's some confusion, I think, in the public around what communication classes are in Peel and what they are kind of in other areas. Communication classes are for students who have average abilities and have a learning disability in reading in one area of reading and require support, intensive support in that area. So we wanted to create a classroom environment where Tier 3 reading intervention was provided in small group instruction by a trained professional, and then having them have access to enhanced supports and access to other parts of the curriculum in an integrated way to make sure that when they moved from elementary school into high school, that they had successful pathways and programs and were used to academic rigor and expectations. So that's the rationale behind the decision. The impetus for the speed behind the decision was really aligned with our staffing timelines. As many of you know, here at SEAC, staffing timelines are quite adhered to and rigorous, and we were up against having to make the decision in a way that allowed us to ensure that when we were seeking new staff to support these classes or having other staff return to a regular mainstream classes, that we did so within the collective agreement. Sure, of course.
I guess just one of the other things I saw here that was requested was the data from surveys that were done, and the data that was used to make the decision. Is that something that's going to be coming?
The data from the surveys that were done was all reflected in the parent information night and guided exact practices to our parent information night. So what we did was we collected and collated the data, and that data was used to create responses to the questions that were asked in the slide deck that we shared with parents and principals. We've also had many principal meetings to make sure that once again that the relationship that happens in community happens between schools and school-based principals. Coordinating Principal Bertrand, along with the coordinators, and I have met with principals who are hosting communications classes to make sure that they have the supports that they require to not only answer questions of their community, but make sure that they have the supports necessary in place. So we've offered timetabling expertise, programming, how do you ensure to protect the communications resource teacher and that they do not get pulled to cover classes, so that we have dedicated instruction every single day. So we've gone through those times with them as well.
Last question. So, and I think this is also part of this, so I apologize if it's already been answered. But the program review that was done to make this decision, will that show up in the special ed plan?
So there was not a formal program review of the communications class. The program review is happening in the vocational 1 classroom with the support of the research department. Remembering that the communications is a pilot, we are partnering with both Sick Kids and Power to take data on reading and see if, so we've done some, we're going to do some pre-reading data with all the students in the communications class and midterm data and post data to make sure that the area of focus and the integrity of the communications class is being met through the reading expectations. So we're working with Empower and Sick Kids on that data. And we're also working internally on our research with our research department based on feedback from community around making sure that we look holistically at children and understand that their mental health and well-being and systems of support are also considered in this fee structure.
Thank you. Not so much of a question, but I guess feedback. I think when these sort of decisions are being made, based on the delegation that was done last month by the parent, it seems that communication is a break. There's a gap between that communication between when their program is closed or changed and how it affects that child specifically. I think if we're going to be doing something like this in the future, it'd be nice to be able to get the children and family involved as soon as possible and have some sort of a game plan in place for that child, saying, okay, this program is being taken away, but this is what we're offering instead, because we want to enhance the learning of the student. Because I feel like And I can see this from the parents that I speak to. I feel like things are always being taken away or things are always being changed, but there's never been given an explanation to why and how, what could we do differently to better our children?
Yeah, thank you for your feedback.
In the communications letter, it says enhancing student support through additional communications resource teacher. What kind of training does this communications resource teacher have? Is it Empower training? And I didn't notice a communications resource teacher in the special education plan.
Through you, Chair, we can check that to make sure that that position is reflected in the special education plan. We will document that right now. The communications resource teacher must have also have Empower training, and preference was given to candidates that had special education qualifications as well. So they are experienced. Most of them that came to us that got the resource teacher position do have vast experience in the delivery of Empower, and they are also providing mentorship not only to the Empower cluster teacher, being able to do small group instruction or catch up students on missed lessons, but the real power of this support is that they're in schools weekly to collaborate with the homeroom teachers to make sure that modifications and accommodations are done throughout the program in a really intensive way, and providing small group or individual instruction as needed based on student need.
So how many of these communication resource teachers will there be?
So we have one for every 4 communication cluster schools. So they spend, so we have 4 total.
Okay, and then I have another question regarding the ADHD supports. Okay, one of the responses says students' stigmatization is the reason for not identifying the students. Being labeled as special needs can create a social stigma, potentially affecting the student's self-esteem and how they are perceived by their peers. How are their peers going to know that they've been identified as exceptional?
So through you, Chair, this is one of the considerations that we had. We wanted to consider holistically when students who have ADHD require additional support, and none of that through our team and through the support of Senior Manager Janet Chakowski's team relies on the formal identification of support. So we provide intensive supports through either IEP development, social emotional learning resource teachers to students outside of that. We have received the feedback and are very thankful to this delegate in particular for her steadfast commitment to making sure that what we say we're doing is accessible to families. To that end, we are having a writing team that is working on ADHD resources, and I'm going to ask Senior Manager Janet Chakowski to kind of share some details around that and how that will land in classroom to make sure that students' needs are being met.
That was my other question. It was about these resources that are being created. Who's creating these resources? Because as Brianna pointed out, there's already Peel District School Board resources which are inadequate, as one of them says that parents should tell their child to just focus.
Through you, Chair, that resource has been removed from the board website as requested. And I'll allow Senior Manager Janet Chakowski to talk about the comprehensive team that's being developed over the summer.
Through you, Chair. We have a writing team that will be led by Dr. Nanishu, who's one of the psychology managers, Dr. Archie Kwan, who was a senior psychologist with the board and now consults with us. That writing team will also consist of social emotional learning resource teachers, classroom teachers, child needs care practitioners, and EAs. Intensive support EAs, or EAs from the field. The deliverables on the writing team are a day-long course that will encompass learning about both FASD and ADHD, the neurobiology, the symptomology, how that looks in classrooms, what teachers might see or EAs might see, and then look at strategies that are very concrete for use within classrooms. So the day-long course will sort of be the first deliverable. We'll support that with additional resources on the website. So what's written, what's compiled through the team and through Dr. Swan and Dr. Shu to make sure that those are sound resources, that they're the best practices. Those will be added to the social emotional learning website so that folks can look back at them at any time. And then I mean, it's pretty ambitious to do all in one summer, but we would then also have an asynchronous course that that teachers or EAs could take at any time through self-registration through our D2L system that would have the same information as the synchronous course, but it would be available as a self-paced course. So those are the deliverables in terms of the professional learning. We're also looking at refining and publishing parent resources, parent and caregiver resources, and principal resources. And those will encompass the process that's involved in getting support. So if you have a diagnosis of ADHD, what do you do next? Or you have a student who has ADHD as a principal or a spec ed head or an ISSP teacher, what do you do next? What processes are available to support the student and family? And what pathways are available in terms of identification or supports without identification, as well as resources for creating effective IEPs and implementing them in the classrooms.
Okay, and one more concern, I guess, really. And another thing is reason for not identifying a student as being exceptional with ADHD is reduced expectations for students. Once identified with an exceptionality, there can be a tendency for teachers to hold a lower academic expectation for that student. So what would prevent the teacher from also having lower expectations while the student's receiving support for ADHD versus identification as ADHD?
So through you, Chair, that is part of the learning that needs to happen in our system and across the system. One of the biggest barriers faced for all students with disabilities is that of low expectations. I think we've talked about it around this table many, many times, and allowing professional development, resources, expectations, and really building the leadership of principals and schools to hold educators accountable for high expectations for students is something that we will continue to dedicate ourselves to and towards, because we understand deeply that all students are capable of learning if they're given the right environment and the right supports. So those are things that we want to really be conscious of, and making sure that again, that a formal exceptionality does not lead to support. So making sure that students then have access. And again, I'm very thankful for the delegation because it has caused quite a bit of conversation in our department around what we know to be good practice and how perhaps what we know to be good practice in our department is not being translated to classrooms and schools and learning. Furthermore, we've also done I held a session for superintendents around monitoring for impact for all students with disabilities. So when you're walking into classrooms or congregated classrooms, what is it that you should expect to see? What kinds of questions can you ask? What can you ask principals for as far as data to make sure that students in either congregated classrooms or mainstream students who are integrated are really having getting the support that they need and require. So we've done an intense amount of work from really kind of EAs all the way up to superintendents. And furthermore, both this learning that Senior Manager Janet Jakowski's team will be writing will be included in our special education conference as well. Coordinated principals Bertrand and Sultanitis are planning a hugely for all EAs across the system, and this learning will be shared with EAs too. So it's going to have a very different approach to, hopefully a different approach to how students with ADHD are approached by all members of the staff. Thank you.
Can we just through Can I just do a follow-up with respect to the professional development? How is did ADHD and FASD become are being grouped and presented on the same day?
Through you, Chair. In consultation with Dr. Shu and Dr. Kwan, a lot of the strategies that are useful and most effective in the classroom, environmental, pedagogical, social emotional, end up being the same strategies that are effective for students with FASD and also for students with ADHD. So the reason why they're effective is different, but that they are effective is the same. So, the things like explicit teaching around executive functioning or using tools, assistive technology tools to assist those who have deficits in that area. Some of the supportive reading strategies, multimodal supports, some of the co-regulation strategies. Those end up being very similar, and there's a lot of similar considerations. Truthfully, one of the reasons why we want to do both on the same day is not only just to look at the connections between these two, the FASD, ADHD, and effective strategies, but also we're having a really hard time getting occasional teachers in the school board to fill absences, as I think every school board is. So having a full day course is going to be much easier to get folks to come out of the classroom to attend. Because an occasional teacher will probably not pick up an absence for a half day, but will probably pick up one for a full day. So it's a bit of a combination of those two things.
And so there will be ongoing support for teachers, not just that one particular day where there be, but there's ongoing support because we can provide information, you can teach somebody how to do, but you may get some sort of different expression along the way and be wondering, well, how do I deal with this? How do I fit this into my teaching strategies? And considering the fact that it is one of the largest, disabilities, and it coincides with learning disabilities often. It's a huge amount of students, and yeah, the more places we have to, and the more teachers we can reach with learning how to deal with people with neurodivergent minds, the better we're going to get, and the more positive outcomes we're going to have. So there are more resources, ongoing resources.
Absolutely, through you, Chair. The social emotional learning resource team will be the first team that goes through the course once completed. So the social emotional learning resource teachers and EAs and the team have already received some training on their own and are currently they're supporting students out there in the system one at a time kind of thing as difficulties that students showing stress behaviors or teachers saying, I'm not sure how to meet this child's needs. The social emotional learning resource teachers will come in and sort of side by side help. And so, there are not enough of them. There's only 10 for the board, and then we have our intensive support EAs that come out and assist as well with a lot of the environmental things, some of the build capacity with the school staff on how to teach some of those, the executive functioning and some of the social emotional skills, the soft skills that students often lack, just because they haven't learned them from osmosis as other children have. So we'll have the course, the asynchronous course, the web resources, and then we have human resources that will go in and help with side-by-side coaching and implementation. And they also assist with things like data collection and creating plans and goals as needed as a support for the student and for the classroom team, and where needed also the parent. especially in times when there's been sort of a bit of a fracture in the relationship between the school and the family.
Yeah,
And we will help to bring those back together.
And that's another one of my concerns is that fracture between the schools and the parents. And I think a lot of parents come with a level of mistrust that, you know, I'm gonna, and miss, you know, not thinking that their kids are gonna get the support that they're gonna have. So we are being open and communicating that these resources that exist. So if the parent has a question, they can say, well, I know that the board has, were you aware of it? And that teachers will also be open and honest about, yes, this is where I'm getting my training. This is how I'm learning how to better teach your child.
And through you, Chair. This year, we did partner with the Safe and Caring Schools Department with their restorative justice and progressive discipline training as well. And really did some learning with key folks at schools, principals, school-wide EAs, the sometimes ed heads or ISP teachers on some of these invisible disabilities and how that may come out and how we might sort of misinterpret the sort of the symptoms or what we might see with these disabilities in terms of behavior and how that might be misinterpreted as misbehavior. So the message we give is, you know, these students are not giving you a hard time; they are having a hard time, and having that the empathy and the humanistic approach, and asking, you know, what's happening instead of why'd you do that. And so that was a very positive partnership. We, you know, originally had planned, I think, 3 sessions, and because of sort of the popularity of those professional learning experiences, we ended up, I think, doing 8 or 9 sessions. So people are very interested in this learning, and really did, you know, ask us questions afterwards, asked us for additional reading material. So folks are really interested in learning this material. And as we gave examples, folks was, oh yes, I can think of a student exactly. And so we were having folks make a lot of really solid connections in that professional learning. So we want to build upon that with sort of that really practical, concrete learning for folks.
Yeah, that's great, because I it's my belief that if we learn more about accommodating the neurodivergent, we'll also learn better practices to teach everybody. And not every kid who is neurodivergent is gonna be you know, pointed out like this. You know, we know that girls typically get missed because they are inattentive. They're the inattentive type, and if they have other diagnoses or other comorbidities, that gets focused on first, and the whole different way their brain operates gets kind of missed. And I think understanding how those neurodivergent brains process information and the difficulty that they have taking in information, and how do we accommodate them? How do we make this easier for the kids? It's going to benefit everybody in the long run.
And just finally, to you, Chair, I mean, we're very good in our department with infiltrating. We call it infiltrating in other departments as well. So, for example, there's writing teams this summer from Research and Innovation on Universal Design for Learning, and you know, we're very successful in meeting with those folks and having them understand that, you know, when you're talking about universal design, we're not just talking about everybody bringing their racial identity or their religious identity, but it also involves, children who have disabilities being able to fully participate in the learning environment. And so, and they're very receptive to that as well. So we make sure that any time that we're being asked to consult, or sometimes even when we're not being asked, we will make sure that students with any sort of disability or neurodivergence are represented in the materials that are being produced to support classroom teachers.
I think that's amazing because, we do see, the move away from that formal identification, which I've never had a problem with. I've never had a problem with the label. I think the label makes it easier to understand because it's right there. It's right in front of your face. But I do understand that not everybody likes having those labels, but it's just another, for me, it's just a word. And it just helps to describe who you are as a human being. And it's not everything that you are. You are more than just that. And these kids are fascinating kids. Anybody else? Jennifer?
I just wanted to, not from necessarily an age, maybe, but from all of our students, this statement in here regarding, as Barb kind of alluded to, don't get an IPRC because you may be stigmatized or expectations will be reduced, is kind of how I read it. I appreciate your feedback on that. That's not the intention of it. But what I'd like to understand is in a more a presentation maybe next year, what is being done to reduce the stigmatization, and what is done to reduce the reduced expectation for students, and how are we measuring, and are we involving students and parents and how they're feeling, that kind of thing. So I'd appreciate some more information on what we're doing to fix this problem.
Through you, Chair, yes, absolutely. It is continued work that we do throughout, not just for students with ADHD, but throughout, and we're happy to bring back presentation, and we're happy to bring back the results of the writing teams to share with SEAC, so you can understand the depth of the work. And furthermore, not just in that side of the department, but in all of our learning, we are trying to move to asynchronous opportunities so that any educator at any time, despite being released or not, can access the learning as a part of what they're doing. And we've really worked hard at making sure that accessibility to the learning for those who are dedicated. We have many, many educators who are not doing those things, right? Who are really believe in children and work for children and fight for children, and kind of centering around that and making sure that those things are accessible. But we will bring that back. Thank you.
Anybody else? I did notice that we have people from the delegation here, and we didn't get a chance for public questions. I think we put there. Yeah. Would somebody like to move for a receipt of those? If we have no more questions, yes, Jeff, thank you. Madam Secretary. Thank you, Nicole. And all in favor of receiving? Okay, we've all received. Thank you. We are going to move to the written questions. I haven't received any, unless we have some surprise written questions. Nope. Any reports on council from representatives? Any interesting summer stuff happening that we'd like to report about? Seeing no hands go up. Any other questions asked of and by committee members? Do we have it? Yes, Barb. Okay.
At a recent IPRC meeting for giftedness, a member of the IPRC committee explained to the parents that enhanced learning classes are designed for students with issues such as ADHD, emotional imbalance, social difficulties, behavioral issues, and English as a second language. It is not a class for students who are just gifted. While ABC is glad to hear that these 2E students are being included in the enhanced learning class, we'd like to know if it is true that all the students in the class have these issues beyond just giftedness.
Through you, Chair, I'm sorry to hear that was the feedback provided to family and community. As you said, they are not exclusionary elements of being placed in the gifted program, but certainly are not requirements to enter the gifted program either. So perhaps offline, we can talk about how that message was shared, and coordinating Principal Bertrand and I can look into making sure clarity of language for our chairs are clear. Training. And some training can happen. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Nope. Okay, 13, notices of motions and petitions. Nobody's raising their hand. 14, the motion and action log. 14.1.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. As shared, due to the ongoing changes in our budget process and our recent changes to our department, we will be sharing our organizational chart in September with SEAC. The confirmation of the Ministry of Education was provided in the delegation just now. HR has committed to bringing information back about the number of procedures around that, and as committed to by Associate Director De Silva, we've already begun to work on a mechanism to collect data around class closures as requested by Jennifer Knight. The PDSB budget is being brought to board in July. So again, we have shared the overall structure that SIA is moving back to the Special Education Department and will be supported by SIA RTs as well as occupational therapists and a SIA vice principal. We do have a hard copy for member Jazzy Gill, and she will be receiving that through coordinating principal Bertrand tomorrow. I would like to share an update around the summer funding projects. Once again, this year, we received a transfer payment agreement to support special education supports during the summer of 2015. The amount of the agreement is approximately $400,000. We are running Camp Constable once again and have already hired our administrators, and we are looking at opening approximately 100 different virtual camps. Camps are 1 week long and are 1, 2, or 3 hours long. Camps are open to any students grades 1 to 21 who have accessed any special education support throughout the 23-2024 school year. This summer, we are also piloting 3 in-person sites for students who have autism and/or developmental delays. We will be running 6 classes for each of the 2-week camps with classes of approximately 6 to 10 students. Due to funding constraints, we are unable to provide transportation to the sites. Students will be selected through a randomized selection process as we cannot meet all the requests for in-person participation. If this camp runs successfully, we are considering expanding in-person Camp Possible next year. Registrations for camps went live on June 13th. Applications for the in-person camp closed June 21st, and the registrations for the virtual camps closed the week before the camp runs or when the camp reaches capacity. The summer funding will also support blind, low vision students to access assistive technology through LearnStyle. Vision itinerants are currently gouging interest from students for participation. Finally, the summer special education funding will support the addition of 27 monitor teachers to support students in summer school. Last year, when monitor teachers were added to secondary summer schools, credit completion increased significantly for those students. So we're really pleased to provide that support. We are hoping for the disbursement of these funds and will create enjoyable and worthwhile opportunities for students during this summer.
Did anybody have any questions with regards to the summer funding? No?
There was a request to have, oh, sure, online.
Oh, sorry, Jazzy. Jazz, sorry, Toby.
No, that's okay. Superintendent Scott, I missed the low vision blind, the funding for, what would it be used for? Could you repeat that again? Sorry. It's hard
absolutely.
to follow on the phone. I didn't realize how hard it would be to follow on the phone.
No problem. The summer funding will also support blind, low vision students to access assistive technology training through LearnStyle. Vision itinerants are currently gouging interest from students for participation.
Okay, so it's the children then can, just so I can share the news with the community, they can go and sign up for these classes to have kind of further exploration with the assisted devices, like kind of get familiar with them a little bit more in the summer.
Yeah, through you, Chair, I'll ask the Senior Manager, Janet Chakowski, to share how the opportunity can be accepted by families.
Thank you, Chair. The coordinator who oversees this portfolio is working with the itinerants to speak to all the students, all of the students on their caseload, to make sure that if they want to take advantage of the opportunity, then it is available to them. And we do have funding available to provide this service. The camps are it's sort of individual training for the student on assistive devices that will and technology that will help them throughout their education to access curriculum.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, as requested, I will, moving forward, provide my oral report in writing. So no need to make a repeated request in September. I will continue to do that. And we already know through an email that Ministry gave us an extension for responses until June 13th. We apologize. There was one item missing from the motion action log, and that was a request from Barb Seer for ONSYS data, and that data will be provided to Barb and any other CF member that would like to look at it right now. Thank you.
Great. Do we have a in your office? Numbers?
I think other people would like to see.
Do we have anything else to add? Yes, Jennifer?
Okay.
Just a couple of questions surrounding some of these. The oral report, is there a way to get it for the people online? Future too, so it's not just a paper copy of your either ahead of time or an email right before the meeting or something like that, so that they'll go online and get copies.
Yeah, through you, Chair, I often write my oral report up to include the most recent information. So I can see about perhaps emailing it out, but or I can look into that.
Or screen sharing would be possible. We can mail it to the people.
Yeah, through you, Chair, I think that when we tried to screen share it with people online today, there were some challenges there.
Okay.
It was not as successful as we would have hoped, so.
Oh, joy. Yeah, I mean, some boards get presentations and oral, like all sorts of stuff going on in there in these presentations. It'd be nice to see something a little more, get it ahead of time so you can actually understand and ask questions. But this is a good start, so thank you. I appreciate that.
Sorry, just to, so I'm just curious about the oral report. It's been here, I think, 4 years. Just not that we're not going to do it. I'm just saying, oftentimes I've worked even with Jennifer, as you were scribbling things. Yeah, you're going way back. Okay, so I just want to be clear because just they haven't in my time been provided in advance, and oftentimes I'm sitting with the, and they're sitting with me just going through the oral report, last minute, just to make sure we tidied it up. So I think in cases, I think the committee would have to be flexible and just that get it out to you on time before the meeting. Great presentations for sure, but the oral report is supposed to be oral report. But certainly, we're still working on it. I think it becomes a bit of an issue when things are moving fast and furious. But certainly after the fact, for sure.
Mark?
I would just like to point out that when I first started here, we hardly ever received an oral report. Almost every report was in the agenda. So every meeting having an oral report is a new thing.
It's a couple
Years. Maybe.
Couple superintendents back. I'm trying to think how many superintendents ago it was. 4 or 5. But yeah, there was a point at which it became an oral report, and I think this is this became an opportunity just for it to be a little bit easier for us to wrap our brains around, because the oral reports became longer and became started to incorporate more and more information, and it has become harder to track. It used to be shorter. Yes.
I'd love to know what that looked like. I still am connected with Ted Byers along with Sean Moynihan and all the others, so I can certainly reach back and see how that was birthed, or if someone here wants to share what it was prior to an oral report. I think that would be great. And shorter is way easier.
Yes.
The reports were just in the agenda, still the superintendent's reports are in the agenda.
Yeah.
Yes, Jennifer.
Just a couple other notes. So the ATRT had a few more questions in there. Can we add those back in? The ATRT is about, well, I guess everything's changed a little bit now, but like, my questions I have in here.
Yeah, through you, Chair, the whole structure has changed. They will be called ATRTs. We've made some role shifts as well. And they will be called SEARTs. And again, be supervised by a SEA vice principal, and also have occupational therapists on the team, which is amazing for students and families to have a really comprehensive look at not only their technical, but their equipment needs. So we're happy to share that once all the final numbers have been approved.
I guess that's what's confusing me a little bit. I keep seeing in here that we'll get the information after getting the budget to the board in July, but we really haven't had a chance to see the budget at all. What all of this means, and I think that's a requirement of SEAC to actually look at the budget and give advice on it. So these comments, when I see the comment that says, we'll give it to you in September after the budget's been approved, on a budget that we haven't had input to, I'm a little confused at that.
Yeah, so through you, Chair, when we had Controller of Finance, Letitia Charles come and present to us, she did present the board budget, the up-to-date board budget to all of us, and was open to questions and feedback at that time. But again, clarity, I think, of what we talked about, making sure that, we understand that this is a SEAC expectation and what standards attached to. We've talked as a team about the feedback that we've been given, and making sure that we align all of our reports to a standard, making sure we're more clear in the expectation when we feel like we're meeting those requirements, and allowing all of you to have a stronger voice in saying this is what we would like on the agenda is something we've talked about, and I've had a meeting with Chair Foster about. But feedback taken, thank you.
Yeah. I was fully expecting to see a budget tonight, so I'm a little confused. I guess it's not complete, and most boards start this way back when. So I think we need to let the trustees know that we weren't really to that presentation. I went through it actually just to make sure I wasn't confused. But when I went back through it, it explained to us where the money came from, right? It explained to us our shortfalls. It explained to us sort of the percentage of where things were staffing, big chunks. But to me, we weren't able to consult on that because I have no idea. You say staffing is 60%, and then we're asked to look at this, staffing list where you've taken it away and put back in. I guess I think the trustees need to be aware that SEAC really wasn't involved in the consultation. And I think it probably needs a motion to do that, unfortunately. Is that accurate? Can we make a motion at this point that no.
This point, we could put it in the action log that we could make an addition to the action log, but it wouldn't be an actual motion because motion should have been read.
Well, SEAC can make recommendations to the board.
Recommendations, yeah, so we can make a recommendation.
Yeah, okay, sorry, I apologize. So how does that happen?
So we can recommend what, that we see the actual numbers?
Just let them know that we
Recommend that the trustees be aware that we were not consulted on the budget.
With regards to the actual numbers,
Yeah.
as opposed to how the budget worked, right?
We had a presentation on.
He wanted to see actual numbers. Okay. How would we do that?
So we can make a recommendation that during the next, budget process, that you are seeing more defined numbers, and we can work with Chair Foster or any representative to make sure that the presentation that's brought by the board is comprehensive and based on the needs that you have. And I'll just ask Associate Director Paul to jump in.
Yeah, through you, Chair, and I know we have trustees online currently, and they would be the first to tell you that the budget development meeting that was finalized happened Monday, just on Monday. So, it again, what we're talking about is I'm not understanding the request for the budget. I think the budget, as it pertains to SEAC, is how it translates to staff or FTE. Those kinds of things, generalized, to see the direct numbers that would be part of the budget development committee. That's what they're looking at, the financial statements and so on and so forth. So I think the impact from this committee would be around, the likelihood is that we're going to see a reduction in GSN or whatever we call them now, with respect to staffing, because of enrollment or whatever, which was shared. And the likelihood is that we're going to see cuts across the system. How do you think that's going to impact our special education department, our social and emotional department? I don't think in the sense around you're going to get a financial statement and you're going to have an impact on the financial statements that are there.
I think sometimes I think though that some people like to know what the numbers are, because so we have this amount, this pot, this size of a pot available, and we're going to this size of a pot. So that means that there's going to be some constraints. So sometimes seeing the actual numbers helps some people understand it in a different way.
And those through you, Chair, and those numbers are always published because through the board minutes and so on and so forth. But I think potentially a recommendation, I'm not telling you what to do, but certainly a potential recommendation is to align. And I think I mentioned that a couple of meetings ago, I believe, or last meeting, just that the connection between staffing and budget development and so on. So these pieces, those recommendations or those decisions or thoughts or discussions should happen well beyond. And I think the position that I would recommend that you take as chair is to say the likelihood in Mississauga and in Brampton and Caledon, we're going to see a reduction in enrollment. So we're going to see cuts on and on and on. So I think that's the position we need to think about as we move forward. And what those mean for special education is less money in special education. That's the result. That's the result in planning and Zambonis in our school, custodians cleaning schools, teachers, all of those contain all of those pieces are interconnected with enrollment, because 80% of our budget is on staffing.
I'm going to toss back to Jennifer to explain the numbers.
And it's not even necessarily the numbers, but what you described didn't really happen this year. And I guess you tell us that there's going to be cuts to all of these things, and you need to understand what and where and how. And right, and the only way I can see that is with numbers or staffing or different things like that, as opposed to the big picture, so that we are as SEAC entitled to see the financial statements.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And if I could, through you, Chair, to respond, I think you don't need us to tell you that. As a committee, you're a powerful committee. You can come together on your own and have those decisions now, right? You can mobilize now because you understand that moving forward, enrollment is not going to get any better. The likelihood it's not going to get any better. It's almost impossible to live in Mississauga and Brampton and Callan at this rate. So those kinds of conversations we can mobilize. If you see, we can have those conversations as early as December, November, and just say, the likelihood is we're going to see reductions. What do you think? What do you think? You don't have to wait for us to take, because then we can take that information back with we or they, and then have that in mind as you then start progressing. Because what happens is it comes very fast and furious. And so all of a sudden, the minister will say, well, no, we're not, you thought you were getting this, but you're actually getting this and we're hiding somewhere else over here. So then instead of racing through staffing, because then we're tied, as I said before, to a January 31st collective agreement deadline around letting individuals know around what their assignments are and what they're teaching, what they're not teaching, and all of those pieces. And we're accessing teachers as what happened this year and so on. So anyway, long pointed conversation.
So through you, Chair, we're happy to, because we're at the motion action log, put in a motion action log to have a more comprehensive budget report brought earlier to SEAC, and I can work with you, Jen, or through Chair Foster, and work on kind of what additional details you would like in that report from the Controller of Finance. When I asked her to come to SEAC, she did indicate that she shared a very similar report last year. So again, the feedback that this year that you didn't get the information, it was almost a similar report to last year at that level, just with updated data. So, but happy to work with you, and we can add something to the motion action log that would indicate a budget report earlier on in the year if that is satisfactory.
Yeah, I think that's satisfactory. SEAC is here to provide some recommendations. We are all volunteers who have other things going on. We expect you guys to kind of lead us through what's required, right? So in other SEAC boards, they do start in November and in past years, we have been asked for our contributions as to what do you think needs to be done, and these are our business cases, and we hear those business cases, right? This kind of thing. So those are the types of things I'd like to see.
Sure.
Okay. Would you like to move for receipt of the motion action log with that addition?
Yeah.
Yay, okay. All right, and I'm ready to second it. All right. All in favor of receiving? Okay, very good. Or receive. Number 15. I'd like to thank everybody for their input today. I'm really impressed with the cooperation that has happened and the learning. This has been a year of learning and a steep year of I think some of us have, I know I've been asleep. And and finally, feeling a little perkier. So, I'd like to thank everybody for your participation. I want to thank the staff, I want to thank the trustees, the representatives, everybody online who comes, all our visitors, the tech staff who keep us running. Everybody contributes and everybody is an integral part of this. And truly, we appreciate all the people who have this passion for everybody to become to have access to a quality education that allows them to become the best contributing citizen that they can be. But thank you. Have a great summer for those who actually get to have summer. And we'll see you again in September.